The kingdom did not awaken in fear. It awakened in expectation. No alarms rang, no soldiers filled the streets, no priest called the people to repentance. Instead, the capital waited, as though every stone beneath its foundations already knew that something long promised had finally begun. The completed circle beneath the temple pulsed only once, gentle, steady, not calling, answering. Far above, the first light of dawn touched the highest towers. The marble no longer reflected the pale light of morning. It seemed to carry its own. Throughout the city, people opened their doors before sunrise. No decree had summoned them. No messenger had spoken. Yet everyone stepped into the streets. Children, merchants, scholars, old soldiers, young priests. All of them looked toward the temple, not because they expected to witness a miracle, because they felt they should be there, inside the royal palace. The king stood alone before the eastern balcony. The commander approached quietly. "Your Majesty, they're gathering." The king nodded. "I know. They're waiting for your command." The king remained silent. Then he smiled faintly. "For centuries," he said, "every command we gave was born from fear." He looked toward the temple. "Today, let them choose without one." The commander bowed, not to his king, to the man who had finally stopped ruling through certainty. Far below, Elira stood beside Aaron. Neither of them spoke. The crossing stood open before them, its light calmer than it had ever been, almost welcoming. After a long silence, Elira asked, "Are you afraid?" Aaron smiled, not because the answer was simple, because it had taken him centuries to find it. "Yes." She looked at him. "I always am." He turned toward the light. "But hope," he whispered, "has finally become stronger." Far beyond the visible horizon, the first distant light began moving, not flickering, approaching. The distant light drew closer, not quickly, not slowly, with the quiet certainty of someone returning home. No one in the capital spoke. No one dared. Across the marble streets, thousands of eyes remained fixed upon the temple. Children reached for their parents' hands. The elders stood without leaning upon their canes. Even the wind seemed unwilling to disturb the moment. Far below, the crossing brightened, not with blinding radiance, with recognition. The completed circle released another gentle pulse. This time, the light beyond the threshold answered immediately. The horizon shimmered. A single figure emerged, not suddenly, gradually, like a memory taking shape. A traveler, clothed in the same white mantle Elira had seen within the memories. The unbroken circle still rested upon one shoulder. Time had not claimed it. The traveler stepped across the threshold. 1 foot, then another. The light welcomed rather than released. When both feet touched the stone, the completed circle fell completely still. For the first time since the seal had been forged, there was perfect silence. The traveler looked around slowly, not with confusion, with wonder, as though every familiar place had become beautifully unfamiliar. His eyes rested upon Aaron. A long silence followed. Neither man moved, neither needed to. Centuries disappeared between them. The traveler smiled. "Aaron," he whispered, not as one greeting a legend, as one greeting an old friend. Aaron smiled in return. His voice trembled for the first time. "You took your time." The traveler laughed softly. "So did you." Elira stood motionless. History was no longer being remembered. It was happening. Above the temple, the first rays of the rising sun crossed the capital. For the first time in generations, the bells rang freely, not because someone had ordered them, because no warning remained to be given. No one moved. Not the king, not the high priest, not the thousands gathered throughout the capital. The first traveler had returned, not as prophecy, not as miracle, as promise fulfilled. The traveler slowly knelt. His hand touched the marble of the completed circle. He closed his eyes. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then a quiet smile appeared upon his face. "It still remembers." Aaron knelt beside him. "So do you." The traveler opened his eyes. "I never forgot." The words spread through the chamber like the first warmth of morning. Above them, the completed circle answered once more. Another gentle pulse flowed beneath the kingdom. This time, it did not stop at the mountains. It crossed deserts. It crossed seas. It crossed forests no map had ever named. Far beyond every horizon, another distant light began to move, then another and another across the capital. People watched in silent wonder as new lights appeared in the morning sky, not falling from above, approaching from beyond. Children pointed toward them. No one told them to be afraid. The elders wept quietly, not because the impossible was happening, because they had lived long enough to witness hope become history again. Inside the temple, the high priest slowly removed the ceremonial seal from around his neck, the symbol he had carried his entire life. He looked at it one final time, then placed it gently upon the stone beside the completed circle, not abandoning it, returning it. "The gate no longer needs a guardian," he whispered. "It needs witnesses." The king heard those words. He stepped forward, then removed his own royal seal. He placed it beside the high priests, one by one. The scholars, the priests, the guards, the people. No one was commanded. No one was expected. Yet all who carried symbols of fear laid them quietly upon the marble, not as surrender, as release. Aaron watched them. For the first time in centuries, the burden he had carried alone no longer belonged to one man. It belonged to a world that had chosen to remember. The chamber grew quiet once more, not because the moment had ended, because another had begun. The first traveler stood beside Aaron, beyond the crossing. More lights continued drawing nearer, patient, unhurried, each one carrying a promise centuries old. Elira watched them in silence. Then she looked toward Aaron. "You waited all this time, so they could return." "Yes, and now they are." "Yes." A long silence followed. She smiled. "Then your journey is over?" Aaron did not answer. Instead, he looked toward the completed circle. Its gentle light remained steady. For the first time, it no longer needed him. Elira noticed the change immediately. "The crossing," she whispered, "it doesn't depend on you anymore. No, it remembers. And now, so does the world." Far above, the first rays of the rising sun poured through the open sanctuary. The light reached the completed circle. It crossed the ancient stone, then gently settled upon Aaron. The traveler beside him smiled knowingly. "You've carried the first watch," he said softly, "for longer than anyone should." Aaron lowered his eyes. "I promised, and you kept that promise." The traveler stepped forward. He placed one hand upon Aaron's shoulder. "No one crosses alone anymore." The words echoed gently through the chamber. Elira suddenly understood. The burden that had rested upon one soul for centuries had finally become the responsibility of many. She looked at Aaron. "What will you do now?" He smiled. Not as the guardian, not as Vaelor, not even as Aaron, the forgotten traveler, simply as a man who had finally reached the end of a very long road. "I will make one last choice." The completed circle answered with a quiet pulse, not urging him, waiting. For the first time since the crossing began, its future no longer depended upon destiny. It depended upon freedom. The completed circle remained still. No pulse, no light, no voice. It no longer needed to call. The world had answered. Aaron stepped slowly toward the crossing, not because he had to, because for the first time in centuries, he was free to choose. Elira walked beside him. Neither spoke. Some journeys deserve silence. They reached the edge of the light. The first traveler waited there. So did the others, one by one. The remaining lights had crossed the horizon. Not all had returned to the kingdom. Some remained beyond the threshold, watching, smiling, waiting, not for Aaron, for his decision. He stood before the crossing for a long time, long enough for the first rays of the morning sun to fill the chamber completely. Then he turned toward Elira. "When we first met," he said softly, "you believed I was the end of your story." She smiled through quiet tears. "I was wrong. Yes, you were the beginning of mine." The words lingered between them, not as farewell, as gratitude. Elira looked toward the world above them. The frightened kingdom she had once known was gone. Children laughed where rituals had once been whispered. The bells rang without warning. The temple stood open. No guards, no barriers, only people, living, remembering, choosing. She looked back at Aaron. "What happens to the crossing now?" He smiled. "It belongs to those who refuse to rule it. It belongs to those who are willing to walk it." He extended his hand, not asking her to follow, inviting her to understand. She took it. The completed circle answered one final time. A warm light spread gently beneath the ancient stone, not awakening, resting, its purpose fulfilled. Aaron released her hand. "You once asked me what happens after the crossing." Elira nodded. "You never answered." He looked toward the endless horizon, then back toward the waking world. "I couldn't, because every answer belongs to the one who chooses." He stepped backward, not disappearing, crossing. The travelers welcomed him home. No songs, no ceremony, only embraces that had waited centuries to be completed. Elira watched until the light became part of the horizon once more. Then she turned, not toward the past, toward the kingdom, toward the people who would now write the next chapter themselves. Above the temple, the sun finally rose above the eastern mountains. Its light touched every rooftop, every road, every face. For the first time since the crossing had been forgotten, the world greeted the dawn without fear.